getting your verb tenses right in English, I mean, it's absolutely fundamental.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like the engine that drives clear communication, letting us place actions precisely in time. Whether you're emailing a colleague, discussing plans, maybe writing an essay, using the wrong tense can just throw off your entire meaning.
Yeah, completely.
And for anyone learning English, goodness, those countless verb forms and rules, it can feel like you're navigating a labyrinth sometimes.
That's so true. Think about it if you say, I eat pizza tomorrow. That single tense mistake, well, it completely scrambles the message you're trying to send.
Right.
Mastering how verbs change is just essential for accurately conveying when something happened, is happening, or will happen. And not just the simple timing, but also, whether the action was completed, is ongoing, or how it relates to other events. It's a cornerstone of fluency, really. And that's why we were really excited when a listener asked us to dive deep into this exact topic. They provided a whole stack of sources, articles, guides, all breaking down English verb tenses, shining a light on common errors, and offering some smart strategies for improvement.
Okay, fantastic. So for this deep dive, we've pulled out the key insights from these sources. We've got material explaining specific tenses, like a really detailed look at the present continuous, which is a big one, and the different ways we talk about the future. We also have a pretty comprehensive guide to common errors English learners frequently make, the pitfalls.
Yeah, the usual suspect.
Exactly, and some genuinely clever techniques for taming those notoriously tricky irregular verbs.
Yes, the irregulars.
Our mission today, then, is to act as your guides through all this material. We want to extract the most valuable knowledge to help you, the listener, understand the structure of English tenses,
Right.
know exactly when and how to use the most important ones, recognize and hopefully avoid common mistakes, and walk away with concrete, actionable strategies for practicing and boosting your accuracy and confidence in expressing yourself in English.
Think of it as your shortcut to building a really solid foundation in English verbs. We're going to try and explore the system behind the seemingly endless forms and give you practical tools to use them effectively.
Okay, sounds great. Let's jump in.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. What is a verb tense, at its core?
Good question.
The sources we looked at agree on the fundamental definition. It's a form of a verb that shows when an action takes place, past, present, or future. Simple enough, right?
Seems like it, but I suspect there's more to it.
There is. As one of the sources, Grammarly, points out, English verbs do much more than just indicate a point on a timeline.
Right. It's not just about the simple when, but also the nature of the action within that time. Is it like a completed event? Is it something ongoing? How does it relate to other actions or moments?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where the concept of grammatical aspects becomes really important.
Aspects. Okay, that sounds like adding another layer of complexity. What are those?
Think of aspects as adding more detail about the action's duration or how it relates to other points in time. They give nuance. The sources list 4 key aspects: the simple aspect, the perfect aspect, the continuous aspect, which you'll also hear called the progressive,
Okay, continuous or progressive. Got it.
and the perfect continuous aspect.
So if you think about it, you take the 3 main time divisions, past, present, future, and combine them with these 4 aspects, 3 times 4. That gives us the 12 main verb tenses that are typically taught in English grammar.
That's the standard framework you'll find across grammar guides, including our sources. And understanding this structure up front is incredibly helpful, actually.
How so?
Well, it shows that there's a logical system at play. Each of the 12 tenses isn't just some random rule someone made up. It's a specific combination of time, that's the tense part, and the action's characteristic within that time, that's the aspect part.
Okay, that makes sense. Could you give us a quick sense of what each aspect generally conveys? What's the core idea behind each one?
Sure, let's break down what the sources say each aspect does. The simple aspect is the most basic. It usually describes an action as a single event or a state, without specifically highlighting duration or completion relative to another time. Think of it as just stating the fact of the action.
Okay, like the facts.
Exactly. The examples from Grammarly are good here. I helped my neighbor yesterday. That simple past, a completed event at a specific past time.
Right.
I help my neighbor every day. That's simple. Present a habitual action, a routine. I will help my neighbor tomorrow. Simple future, a planned or predicted future action. It's really just about the action itself, plain and simple.
Got it. And the continuous aspect, you mentioned progressive. This one always makes me think of action in progress.
That's exactly it. The continuous aspect focuses on the ongoing nature of an action. It tells you that an action was, is, or will be in the middle of happening over a period of time.
Oh.
Examples from the sources really highlight this. I was helping my neighbor when he brought me iced tea. See? Past continuous, the helping was in progress when the iced tea arrived.
Ah, right. Interrupted action.
Or just ongoing at that past moment. Then, I am helping my neighbor while he fixes up his house. That's present continuous. The helping is happening right now. It's ongoing as we speak, potentially.
Okay.
And I will be helping my neighbor next month when he moves. Future continuous, the helping will be an ongoing action at a specific point in the future. It's all about the action unfolding, being in progress.
Makes sense. Now, the perfect aspect, this is often the one that causes the most head-scratching for learners, isn't it?
It definitely can be tricky. The sources explain that the perfect aspect is all about connection. It links one time point to another. Usually it shows that an action is completed before a specific point in time.
Okay, completion before something else.
Right. Or that an action started in the past and has relevance or continuation in the present. The structure always uses a form of the auxiliary verb have. So, have, has, or had, followed by the past participle of the main verb, like helped, seen, gone.
Right, the third form.
Exactly. Look at these examples from Grammarly. I had helped my neighbor clean his attic before I fixed his car. That's past perfect. The helping was finished before the fixing happened. Two past actions, one before the other.
Okay, sequence again.
Then, I have helped my neighbor too much this week. Present. Perfect. The helping happened in the past, maybe multiple times this week, but the consequence of relevance exists now. Maybe you're tired now, or maybe the week isn't over yet. The past action connects to the present.
Ah, okay. That connection is key.
And finally, I will have helped my neighbor 100 times by the end of the month. That's future perfect. The helping will be finished by that future point in time, the end of the month. It's about completion relative to a future marker point.
Got it. And then we combine them for the perfect continuous. That sounds like the most complex one.
It combines the ideas, yeah.
Yeah.
This aspect describes actions that are ongoing over a period of time, and it often emphasizes the duration of that action, usually leading up to or stopping at a specific point.
So duration is the focus here.
Often, yes. The structure uses a form of have plus been plus the present participle. The ing form, so have been helping, have been working. The examples show this focus on duration. I had been helping my neighbor for a year before he finally thanked me. Past perfect continuous, the helping, was ongoing for a duration, a whole year, up to that past moment when he thanked you.
Right, duration leading to a past point.
I have been helping my neighbor since I moved in. Present perfect continuous, the helping started in the past, since I moved in, and is still ongoing now, emphasizing how long it's been happening.
Still happening, emphasis on how long. Okay.
And I will have been helping my neighbor for a year next month. Future perfect continuous, the helping will be ongoing and reach a duration of a year by that point in the future, next month. It highlights the continuous nature over a stretch of time leading up to a future point.
Wow. Okay, that framework, visualizing the three tenses past, present, future, crossed with the four aspects, simple, continuous, perfect, perfect, continuous to get 12 forms. It really does provide a clear map of the English verb system.
It does, doesn't it?
It shows that each tense, no matter how complicated it seems at first, serves a specific purpose in defining an action's relationship with time and duration.
Absolutely. And this framework helps you see that we kind of need all these forms because language requires us to be precise about more than just when an action happens. We need to say if it was a completed event, if it was in progress, if it finished before something else, or if it was ongoing for a specific period.
So what does this mean for you, the listener? Well, understanding this foundational structure, this interplay between tense, meaning time, and aspect, meaning how the action exists in time, is really the key to unlocking the whole system.
Exactly. It's not just memorizing forms. It's understanding the logic behind why you choose I walk versus I am walking versus I have walked or even I have been walking.
It's your essential guide, your map to mastering English verbs.
Okay, building on that foundation, let's zoom in on a tense that's absolutely essential for everyday conversation, and yet, as our sources highlight, a really common source of confusion for learners. The present continuous.
Ah, yes, the ing tense.
That's the one. The Klapingo source dedicates a significant amount of detail to the present continuous, also known as the present progressive. And it's crucial because it lets us talk about our immediate reality, what's happening right now.
Okay, let's unpack the mechanics first. How exactly do we form the present continuous tense? What's the construction?
It's a combination, right? It uses the present tense of the verb to be, that's am, is, or are, plus the present participle of the main verb, which is the base form plus ing.
Okay.
So the formula is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Subject plus auxiliary verb be, amisare, plus main verb plus ing. Of course, the form of be has to agree with the subject. Uses am, you, we, and they use are, and he, she uses is.
So you are talking, he is studying. Simple as that.
That's the basic structure. Now, adding ing to the main verb. Is it always that simple?
Good question. Usually, maybe.
Usually, yes. You just add ing to the base form. Talk becomes talking. Read becomes reading. Eat becomes eating. However, the Klopingo source points out some key spelling rules we need to be aware of.
Ah, the exceptions.
Right. For most verbs ending in a consonant, immediately preceded by a single vowel, think CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant. At the end, you often double the final consonant before adding ing, like run becomes running with two N's, swim becomes swimming, sit becomes sitting.
Okay, that double consonant rule.
And as we mentioned briefly before, verbs ending in a consonant followed by a silent E usually drop the E before adding ing, like come becomes coming, no E. Write becomes writing. These spelling tweaks are important for written accuracy.
Can you give us some classic examples from the sources that show the structure and maybe those spelling rules in action?
Sure. The examples are very clear. I am talking to my friend. You are studying for your exams. He is playing cricket. You see the subject, the correct be form, and the main verb with ing.
Standard ones.
And for the spelling rules, examples would be something like they're running in the park, double N, or she is writing a novel, dropped E.
Gotcha. So what's the primary situation where we use the present continuous? When is it most commonly needed?
The core use, the one you'll encounter most often, is to describe actions that are happening right now at this very moment of speaking.
Literally now.
Literally now. If you look out the window and see it raining, you say, it is raining. If your friend calls and asks what you're doing, you say, I am reading a book. This is for actions literally in progress at the point you utter the sentence.
And this is usually with dynamic verbs, right? Verbs that describe actions like eating, running, going, sitting.
Exactly. Dynamic verbs show action or change. Stative verbs, on the other hand, describe states, feelings, senses, possession, or thoughts. Things like know, believe, want, understand, love, own, need. These were generally not used in the continuous form in standard English.
Okay, that's a key distinction.
It really is. You don't typically say, I am knowing the answer. You say, I know the answer, or I am wanting pizza. You say, I want pizza. This is a common point of confusion, and our sources mention it explicitly as something learners need to watch out for.
But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit less intuitive for learners. Using the present continuous to talk about the future. How does that work?
Yes, this is a crucial extension of the tense, and it's covered well in both the Klopingo and Grammarly sources. The present continuous is commonly used to indicate plans or arrangements for the near future.
Near future plans. Okay.
And importantly, it's not just a vague possibility. It usually suggests a definite arrangement has already been made. Something is scheduled or organized.
So more solid than just an idea.
Exactly. If you have tickets to a concert next week, you can very naturally say, we are going to a concert next week. The Klopingo source gives the example, we are planning a trip to Goa next month. Here, the verb planning itself is continuous, indicating the ongoing nature of the planning process leading to a future trip, but the whole sentence points to a future event. This usage emphasizes that the future event is fixed and arranged.
Okay, so it's different from just saying, I will go to a party tomorrow, which sounds maybe more like a simple intention or a prediction.
Precisely. If you say, I'm going to a party tomorrow, it implies you've probably been invited, you've accepted, maybe you've even thought about what to wear. It feels like a definite arrangement.
Right.
Whereas I will go to a party tomorrow could just mean you intend to, or you've decided just now, but nothing is necessarily confirmed yet. The present continuous for the future adds that nuance of prearrangement, of something being in the diary.
That's a really useful distinction. Now, can it also be used for actions that are ongoing but sort of temporary in nature?
That's another important use case highlighted in the sources. It describes actions that are happening over a period around the present moment, but are not necessarily permanent or habitual. They're temporary situations.
Like a phase.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
The example, he's working on his painting skills these days, doesn't necessarily mean he's holding a brush right now, but that this activity is an ongoing, temporary focus in his life currently.
Okay.
Similarly, she's living with her aunt this month implies a temporary living arrangement, not her permanent home. It contrasts with the simple present, which would suggest permanence. She lives with her aunt.
Right, and the Klopingo source provides a very clear comparison between the present continuous and the simple present. Can you remind us of the critical difference again? Because this trips people up.
It really does.
Mm.
This comparison is essential because they both relate to the present, but in very different ways. Let's recap. The simple present is for habits, routines, facts, and general truths. Things that are always or usually true. She eats an apple every day. That's her routine. The sun rises in the east. That's the general fact.
Okay, routines and facts.
The present continuous, on the other hand, is for actions happening at the moment of speaking, temporary actions happening around now, or definite near-future plans. So, she is eating an apple now happening right this second. She is eating healthy food this week, a temporary focus. She is eating dinner with her parents tomorrow, a future plan.
That side-by-side is really clear. Habits versus now temporary future plans.
Understanding this distinction prevents major errors in conveying whether something is a regular occurrence or an immediate, temporary, or planned event.
So, what are the most common errors learners make specifically with forming this tense?
The sources list typical structural errors that indicate learners might not have fully grasped the formula. The most frequent are simply omitting the auxiliary be verb, amisar, or omitting the ing ending on the main verb.
Missing a piece.
Exactly. Examples given. Error. She play cricket now. The correction needs the be verb. She is playing cricket now. Another example. Error. I am watch a movie. Needs the ing. I am watching a movie. These errors make the sentence grammatically incorrect and immediately signal confusion about ongoing actions.
And forming questions. That often involves tricky word order changes.
It does. The correct structure for questions in the present continuous is question word, if any, plus auxiliary verb, be, plus subject, plus main verb, plus ing.
Okay, be before the subject.
Right. Learners often get this word order wrong, especially when there's a question word like what, where, why. A very common error mentioned is what you are doing, instead of the correct what are you doing. The auxiliary be must come before the subject you in the question.
Right, inversion.
Exactly. Other examples from the source demonstrate this. Are you reading a book? No question word, just invert be in subject. Is she cooking dinner? Am I speaking loudly?
The Klopingo source also offers a little mini dialogue example that shows this question and answer structure really well. Anjali asks, "Hi, what are you doing here?" And Sid replies, "I'm waiting for my brother."
That's a great, simple exchange. It illustrates the correct usage perfectly in a natural conversational context.
Yeah, very clear.
And that actually brings us to a fascinating aspect mentioned in the Klopingo source, the unique usage of the present continuous in Indian English.
Right. This is where we see language adapting culturally. It's not strictly standard global English, maybe, but it's common and understandable in that specific context.
Exactly. It illustrates how a global language like English evolves and takes on local flavors in different regions. The source highlights two notable usages in Indian English that differ from typical global standard usage.
What are they?
First, using the continuous form with some stative verbs, particularly like. While standard English generally says, I like your new kurta, in Indian English, it's not uncommon to hear, I am liking your new kurta.
Interesting. Why is that?
The source suggests this often reflects a focus on the personal preference or emotion being experienced in the present moment, possibly influenced by similar grammatical structures in regional Indian languages, where expressing ongoing feelings this way is normal.
Okay, so emphasizing the current feeling. And the second one?
The second is using the present continuous for habitual actions. As we just discussed, standard English typically uses the simple present for routines. We usually have lunch at 1 p.m. However, in Indian English, you might commonly hear, we are usually having lunch at 1 p.m.
So using the ing form even for a regular repeated action.
Right. It seems to frame the repeated action as an ongoing process or a state that holds true over time, again, possibly reflecting influences from local languages.
So what's the takeaway here? While learning the standard rules is essential for broad communication, especially formal or international,
Yeah, definitely.
recognizing these regional variations is really key to understanding different Englishes and communicating effectively within specific communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean these usages are wrong within their context, but rather that they are part of a distinct, valid regional dialect of English. Understanding this helps you navigate communication depending on your audience, using standard forms when needed, but also recognizing and understanding these variations without judgment when you encounter them.
That makes a lot of sense. So, wrapping up this section on the present continuous, why is truly mastering this tense so important for you, the listener?
Well, because it's the tense you use probably most often to talk about your immediate life, what you're literally doing right now, what you're focused on temporarily, and your concrete plans for the very near future.
It's very present.
Extremely. Getting comfortable with its formation and its different uses, the now, the temporary, the future plans, allows you to speak about the present and immediate future with accuracy and confidence. It makes your English sound much more dynamic, much more natural, and really aligned with how actions are unfolding in the moment. It's a fundamental building block for conversational fluency.
Okay, let's shift our focus then. From actions happening now, let's look ahead to actions that haven't happened yet. Our sources provide a detailed look at the future tense and its various forms.
Right, talking about the road ahead. The by juice source, along with definitions from places like Cambridge, Collins, and Merriam-Webster, they all describe the future tense as referring to actions or states that will happen or exist after the time of speaking.
Simple enough. It's the tool we use for expressing predictions, plans, intentions, possibilities, anything not yet happened.
Exactly. But just like the present and past, the future isn't just one simple form in English. It also incorporates those four aspects we talked about earlier, giving us different ways to view actions in the future.
So we have simple future, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous again, each giving a slightly different nuance about the future action.
That's right. Each one shapes how we see the action in future time.
Okay, can you walk us through the structure and the core meaning of each, based on what the sources say? Let's start with the simple future.
Okay. The simple future tense is the most basic form. It's generally used for general future actions, predictions, spontaneous decisions made at the moment of speaking, or promises. The primary structure given in the sources is subject plus auxiliary verb will plus base form of the main verb.
Will plus the basic verb.
Yep. Example from Bijus. Karthik will meet me at the gym. This just states the meeting is planned or expected to happen. It's worth noting that be going to, subject plus be plus going to plus base verb, is also extremely common for future plans or predictions based on present evidence. But the sources here focus primarily on the will structure for simple future.
Okay, will meet. Got it. What about future continuous?
The future continuous tense describes an action that will be in progress at a specific time or over a period in the future. The structure is subject plus will plus be plus main verb plus ing.
Will be doing.
Exactly. Example, Karthik will be meeting me at the gym. This suggests that at some specific future point, the action of meeting will be ongoing. Think of it like the present continuous, but projected into the future. You might use this to say something like, at 3 p.m. tomorrow, I will be working. It paints a picture of you in the middle of the action then.
Okay, makes sense. Now the future perfect, that sounds like something will be finished.
Precisely. The future perfect tense is used to represent an action that will be completed before a specific point in the future.
Completed before.
Yes. The structure is subject plus will plus have plus past participle form of the main verb, that third form again, often followed by a time frame using by or before. Example, Karthik will have met me at the gym. This indicates that by some future point, maybe by 5 p.m. or by the time you arrive, Karthik's meeting will already be finished. A classic example is something like, by next year, I will have finished my degree. The finishing happens before that future point next year.
Got it. And the last one, future perfect continuous, sounds like a mouthful.
It does, but it has a specific job. It describes an action that will be ongoing up until a certain point in the future, and it often emphasizes the duration of that ongoing action.
Okay, ongoing until a point, emphasis on duration.
Right. The structure is subject plus will plus have plus been plus main verb plus ing. Example, Karthik will have been meeting me at the gym. This implies that the action of meeting will be ongoing and continue right up to a specific future time point. The Bijou source describes it slightly differently, but the structure clearly points to duration of a future ongoing action leading to a point. Maybe a clearer example helps. By the time you finally arrive, I will have been waiting for 3 hours.
Okay. That emphasizes the waiting duration leading up to the arrival. Very clear.
Yeah, it shows the action, waiting, started sometime before your future arrival and continued right up to that future point, highlighting the 3-hour duration.
It's interesting how each form adds that extra layer of precision. Simple future is just, it will happen. Continuous is, it will be happening then. Perfect is, it will have finished by then. And perfect continuous is, it will have been happening up until then.
Exactly. They allow you to be incredibly specific about the state and timing of an action in future time. And the sources also show how to form negative and interrogative, question sentences
Yeah.
using these structures.
Right. For negatives, you just add not after will, making it will not or the contraction won't.
Yes, exactly. Will not is the full form, and won't is extremely common, especially in speech.
Hmm.
The Bijis table shows examples like simple future negative. Sindhu won't walk to school tomorrow. It applies across the forms. You just slot not after will. He won't be working. They won't have finished. She won't have been studying.
Simple enough. And for questions, you invert the subject and will. Put will first.
Correct. The basic structure is will plus subject plus rest of the verb phrase, simple future interrogative. Will Sindhu walk to school tomorrow? And this pattern generally holds for the other future forms as well, with will moving to the front before the subject. For example, future continuous question. Will Karthik be meeting me at the gym? Future perfect question. Will Karthik have met me at the gym? Future perfect continuous question. Will Karthik have been meeting me?
Got it. Any other good examples from the sources that showcase these different future forms in action?
Yes, Bai just gives a few more that are helpful to see the variety. Navya will write a song for the sectionals. That's simple future.
Okay.
Catherine will be coming home for the holidays. Future continuous, suggesting the journey home will be in progress over that period. Bharath will have left work by now. That's future perfect, used here as a prediction about a completed action relative to the current moment.
Ah, okay. Prediction about completion.
Will he be studying for tomorrow's exam? Future continuous question, asking about an ongoing action tomorrow. They will not have performed at the concert. Future perfect negative. Will you think over and let me know? Simple future question, asking about a future action or decision.
Those examples really help solidify the different uses. So what does understanding these different future forms mean for you, the listener? Why bother with all this complexity?
Well, it means you gain the ability to talk about the future with much greater accuracy and nuance. You can clearly differentiate between a simple prediction or plan and action that will be in full swing at a future point, something that will definitely be completed before a deadline, or an action that will have been ongoing for a period up to a future time.
It's about precision.
It really is. This precision is key to making your future plans, your predictions, your possibilities crystal clear to others. It elevates your communication beyond just saying it will happen and allows you to express much more sophisticated ideas about future time.
Okay, we've built the foundation with tense and aspect. We've looked at the present continuous, and we've looked ahead with the future tenses. Now let's talk about the inevitable bumps in the road. Common errors. Our sources provide a really useful overview of the mistakes learners frequently make, which is invaluable for knowing what specifically to work on.
Absolutely. The source titled Common English Errors is dedicated entirely to this, and it wisely reminds us that making mistakes is just a natural, unavoidable part of the learning process.
We all do it.
We all do it. It also notes, interestingly, that some errors are particularly common among speakers of certain first languages, likely due to structural differences between their language and English.
That makes sense. So, what are some of the most frequent culprits listed in this source? Where do learners often stumble?
The source covers several key areas. One basic but really persistent issue is just spelling errors. Certain words seem to consistently trip up learners.
Oh, I can imagine a few.
Yeah, the list includes words like accommodation, often misspelled with one M or one C, sometimes both.
Right, accommodation. See it all the time.
Exactly. Others mentioned are advertisement, which, confused with which sometimes, department, interested, colleagues, interesting, program, that common UK spelling often gets an extra M or loses the me, decision, and sincerely. Simple spell check helps, of course, but just knowing which words are repeat offenders is the first step.
Definitely. And confusing words that sound or look similar. Homophones or near homophones must be a big one.
Oh yeah, that's a classic source of errors.
Huh.
The source highlights confusing similar words, giving the example of loose, which is an adjective meaning not tight, versus lose, which is a verb meaning to misplace something or fail to win.
Easy to mix up.
Very easy. Another example given is costumers, people who make or wear costumes, versus customers, the people who buy goods or services from a business. Context is everything, but you have to know the difference exists first.
Prepositions in English. They feel like they follow their own unpredictable logic sometimes. Did the source confirm they're a problem area?
They really are notoriously difficult, yes. The source confirms that preposition problems are a very prominent category of error for English learners. It specifically lists the most common mistakes it observed. using in when on is required, using of instead of for, and using in when it should be at.
Those specific examples from the source were really helpful for identifying these. Can you share those again? They make it concrete.
Of course, for in versus on, the common error is saying something like a seminar in on the subject, when the correct phrasing is a seminar on the subject. You typically have a seminar, discussion, or book on a topic.
Right, on a subject.
For of versus for. The error example is a center of for recreation, which should be corrected to a center for recreation. You usually have a center or place for a specific purpose.
Okay, for a purpose.
And for in versus at, the error shown is not available in at the moment, corrected to not available at the moment. You are generally available at a specific point in time, like at noon, at the moment, at present. These tiny words, prepositions, can drastically change or completely confuse the meaning if used incorrectly.
They really punch above their weight, those little words. What about word order? Does that cause issues, maybe influenced by a learner's first language structure?
Absolutely. The source notes that learners often put words in the wrong order, leading to sentences that sound unnatural or genuinely difficult to understand. This can involve misplacing adverbs like also or only, getting the order of adjectives wrong, or mixing up the position of determiners like a or the relative to words like quite or such.
Got any example?
Yes, the source gives these. Error. Yes, I also have a favorite restaurant. Here also is repeated and misplaced. The correction is, yes, I also have a favorite restaurant, placed before the main verb, have. Another one. Error. We have quite a big training room. Again, repetition and incorrect order. The correction is, we have quite a big training room. The structure is quite plus a fun plus adjective plus noun. Correct word order is just crucial for clarity and naturalness in English.
Definitely. The source also details errors in using the wrong verbs or nouns in specific contexts, right? Like choosing a word that's close but not quite right.
Yes, this covers issues with verb and noun usage errors. Sometimes learners confuse verbs that have similar meanings but are used in different grammatical structures or collocations, words that naturally go together. A common verb mistake highlighted is overusing or misusing the verb make, when other verbs like do, have, take are more appropriate in certain phrases.
Like make a mistake is okay, but maybe not make exercise.
Exactly, you do exercise. The source also points out learners sometimes omit necessary auxiliary verbs like have, had, or do, especially in questions or negatives. Examples of verb errors. Error, what you make do with your talent. Correction, what you do with your talent. Error, have a training course. Correction, have a training course.
Okay, and noun errors.
For nouns, the source points out instances where learners use a noun that is similar in meaning, but not the standard term in that specific context. Like using possibility when opportunity is more fitting. Error, a great possibility to socialize, versus correction, a great opportunity to socialize. Or using advertisement, a specific ad, when the general concept of advertising is met. Error, advertisement had a direct impact, versus correction, advertising had a direct impact. Choosing the precise noun matters.
It really does. And rounding back to tenses, the source specifically calls out confusion with conditional patterns and simple past errors, even beyond the present continuous issues.
Right. It notes that learners often struggle with conditional sentences, sometimes mixing up the tenses required in the if clause and the main clause. The source gives the example of the second conditional, used for hypothetical situations. Error if there are sockets, corrected to if there were sockets. The if clause in the second conditional requires the simple past tense form, even if it refers to the present or future.
Ah, the subjunctive mood, essentially.
Kind of, yeah, that past form signals the hypothetical nature. They also note simple past errors, like using the present simple when a past action is clearly intended and should be in the past tense. Error. There is a slight increase, when talking about last year's results, for example, corrected to there was a slight increase. Getting the timeline right with tense is vital.
So what does this catalog of common errors mean for you, the listener?
Well, this section of the sources is like a treasure map of potential pitfalls. By being aware of these specific common errors, from knowing which words are hard to spell, which prepositions typically go with which situations, to avoiding word order mix-ups and choosing the precise right verb or noun for the context, you can actively listen for and identify these issues in your own English.
It gives you a checklist.
Exactly. It provides a target list for focused practice and self-correction. It helps you polish your language and avoid those misunderstandings that can easily arise from these common, often small, slip-ups. Recognizing the problem, as they say, is the first step towards fixing it.
Definitely. Okay, now let's tackle perhaps the most daunting challenge for many learners when it comes to English verbs, the irregular ones. These are the rebels, the nonconformists, that refuse to follow the standard ed rule for forming the simple past and past participle.
They absolutely don't play by the rules, which, as the Verbling source points out, is precisely why they can feel so overwhelming. You can't just apply a formula, you often just have to memorize their unique forms. Go, went, gone, eat, ate, eaten. There's no obvious pattern sometimes.
It feels like pure memorization.
It can feel that way, but the great news is that the Verbling article provides not just lists, but 8 incredibly practical and frankly quite creative tricks to make the memorization process much more manageable and maybe even fun.
Fun, memorizing verbs. I'm intrigued.
Well, more fun than just staring at a list. It's about smart learning strategies, not just brute force repetition.
Okay, let's unpack some of these clever tricks. What's the first strategy the source suggests?
Strategy number 1 is group common irregular verbs together. Don't try to learn them alphabetically because that just mixes up all sorts of different patterns and feels random. Instead, look for verbs that behave similarly and group them.
Ah, find the hidden patterns.
Exactly. The source suggests looking for groups like verbs where all 3 forms, the base, the simple past, and the past participle, are the same, like cost, cut, said, shut, put. That's one easy group.
Okay, the no change group.
Right. Then there are verbs where the simple past and past participle forms are the same, but different from the base form. Like breed, bred, fed, hold, held, shoot, shot, tell, told, sell, sold.
The two forms the same group.
Exactly. And another pattern is verbs where the past participle ends in, like speak, spoke, spoken, wake,
Yep.
woken, break, broken, choose, chosen, steal, stole, stolen. Finding these kinds of patterns can significantly reduce the feeling of randomness and make them easier to tackle in batches.
Okay, grouping by pattern makes sense. What's trick number 2?
Learn all new vocabulary with its tense forms. This is about building a good habit right from the start.
Be proactive.
Absolutely essential. Make it your rule. Whenever you encounter a new irregular verb, immediately learn its simple past and past participle forms at the same time. Don't just learn that to steal means to take something without permission. Learn that the forms are steal, stole, stolen. Embed all 3 together in your memory right away. It saves you so much work later trying to backtrack.
Good advice. Trick number 3.
Memorize the 10 most common irregular verbs first. This is all about prioritizing. Focus your effort where it will have the biggest payoff in everyday communication.
The high-frequency ones.
Exactly. You don't need to master all 150 plus irregular verbs overnight. Start with the ones you'll use constantly. The source lists the absolute must-know, top 10. Say, said, go, went, gone, come, came, come, no, new, known, get, got, gotten. Or just gotten, British English for the participle. Give, gave, given, become, became, find, found, think, thought, see, saw, seen.
Those are everywhere in conversation.
They are fundamental. Mastering just these 10 unlocks your ability to form countless essential sentences correctly and sound much more natural.
Okay, focus on the top 10 first. What's trick number 4? Is this where the fun starts?
Maybe. Turn memorizing into a game. Make it enjoyable, or at least more engaging than rote learning. The source suggests finding online resources. There are loads of quizzes out there, like the British Council website has good ones. Or interactive tools like the Macmillan Dictionary Verb Wheel, where you spin and test yourself. Even game show style formats like Quia Jeopardy adapted for verbs. Or you can easily make your own simple game. Get some index cards, write the base form on one card, and the past or past participle on another. Shuffle them up and play a matching game, like memory or concentration.
Ah, like matching pairs.
Yeah. The act of creating the cards is also a form of active learning and practice.
Clever. Okay, trick 5.
Learn in sentences. Put the verbs into real-world context. Don't just memorize lists of words in isolation.
Why is context so important?
Because it helps you understand how the verbs are actually used naturally, and it makes them much easier to remember. Create sentences or short phrases using the different forms. The source even encourages being creative or even a bit silly, as unusual or vivid sentences can stick in your memory better.
Like a memorable image.
Exactly. The example provided is quite memorable. I see the bee, I saw the snow, but I've never seen a bee in the snow. It uses all 3 forms in a quirky little narrative. You can use rhymes, build short stories connecting several verbs, or link them to your own personal experiences. Context anchors the memory.
I like that one. Trick number 6.
Learn with songs. Music is an incredibly powerful memory tool for many people.
Earworms for verbs.
Pretty much. Melodies and rhythms help things stick in your brain without you even trying too hard sometimes. The source recommends searching for songs on YouTube specifically designed to teach irregular verbs. They mention resources like Fluency MC's rap videos, which are quite popular.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of those.
Animated videos, like the adorable cat one mentioned in the source, which makes the forms visual and engaging, or even the classic Schoolhouse Rock cartoons from back in the day, which are still great. Listening and singing along can make memorization feel almost effortless.
Worth a try. Trick number 7.
Leave lists where you can see them. This is about simple, passive reinforcement through repeated exposure.
Okay, visual reminders.
Yes. The tip is to break down the intimidating long list of irregular verbs into small, manageable groups, maybe just 5 or 10 verbs at a time. Write these small groups out clearly and place the lists in spots where you'll see them often throughout your day. Maybe stick one on the fridge, put one next to your coffee maker, tape one to a door you use frequently, or even on your bathroom mirror.
Constant low-level exposure.
Exactly. Just glancing at them for a few minutes each day, maybe while brushing your teeth or waiting for the kettle to boil, can help reinforce the forms passively. Once you feel you've really got a group down, swap it out for the next small batch.
Smart. And the final trick, number 8.
This one is crucial for turning knowledge into active skill. Ask people to correct you. Be brave and actively seek real-time feedback when you speak.
Ooh, that takes courage.
It does, but it's incredibly effective. When you're speaking English, especially with a native speaker, a tutor, or a language exchange partner you trust, explicitly ask them, please correct me if I use the wrong verb form. Getting corrected right in the moment, in the context of a real sentence you actually produced, is one of the fastest ways to learn the correct form and stop making that specific mistake.
So you need to be open to the correction.
Absolutely. You have to see it as helpful feedback, not criticism. It accelerates your learning significantly.
So what does mastering these irregular verbs using these clever tricks mean for you, the listener?
It means you don't have to feel completely defeated by them. Irregular verbs are definitely a hurdle, but they aren't insurmountable. These strategies from the Verbling source provide diverse and often much more engaging ways to approach the necessary memorization. By actively applying these techniques, grouping by pattern, learning forms with vocab, focusing on common ones, using context in sentences, playing games, leveraging music, using visual reminders, and crucially, seeking correction, you can systematically learn these tricky verbs, build your confidence, and significantly improve your fluency and accuracy. It turns a potentially frustrating task into a series of achievable, even interesting steps.
That's much more motivating. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. We've looked at the fundamental structure of English tenses. We've dived deep into the essential present continuous and the varied forms of the future tense. We've armed ourselves with knowledge about common errors to avoid. And now we've explored some smart ways to tackle those tricky, irregular verbs.
We really have. We've seen how crucial all these elements are for clear, accurate, and natural communication in English. Understanding when and how to use different verb forms gives you the power to express yourself with real precision. Whether you're describing something happening right now, making plans for the future, recounting past events, or predicting what might happen next.
But knowledge is powerful, but it's really the application of that knowledge that leads to mastery, isn't it? The sources don't just give us the rules, they also offer practical strategies for putting them into practice. It's about doing.
Exactly. It's all about integrating what you've learned into your active English usage. The Clipingo source, for example, recommends thinking in English. And this isn't just some vague idea. It means actively trying to formulate sentences in English in your head throughout the day.
Like internal narration.
Sort of. Especially describing current actions using the present continuous. See a bird singing outside your window. Actively think the bird is singing. Hear a dog barking. The dog is barking. This builds the mental pathways, the direct link between observation and the correct tense usage, without translating from your first language.
That's a powerful habit to build. Reading aloud is another practical tip mentioned. How does that help?
Reading aloud helps you internalize the patterns and rhythms of the language. Find English texts, articles, book chapters, maybe even dialogues from movies or plays, and read them out loud. As you read, pay close attention to how the verbs are used. Notice which tense and aspect is chosen in different situations, and try to understand why the author made that choice. It helps you absorb correct usage almost by osmosis.
And reinforcing the idea that context is key, understanding the situation.
Absolutely crucial. As the Clipingo source emphasizes, choosing the right tense often comes down to really understanding the specific context and the precise meaning you want to convey. You need to ask yourself, is this action a general habit? Simple present. Is it happening right now? Present continuous. Did it start in the past and continue until this very moment? Present perfect continuous. Focusing on the situation helps you select the appropriate tense more intuitively than just trying to recall abstract rules.
That makes sense. Practice exercises, like filling in blanks or converting sentences between tenses, those must be invaluable too, right, for drilling the forms.
They provide really important structured practice. They force you to actively apply the rules of formation and usage directly. The Klopingo source includes examples of these. For instance, taking a sentence like, he writes a letter, which is simple present, and being asked to convert it to the present continuous requires you to actively remember the structure, subject plus be plus verbing. So you have to produce, he is writing a letter. Doing these kinds of exercises systematically solidifies your understanding of the formation rules and helps you automate them.
And simple daily conversation practice, even just practicing dialogues you find or making your own.
Absolutely vital. Spoken practice is where the rubber really meets the road. That's where you take the knowledge and make it active. Use the tenses you're focusing on in real conversations whenever possible. Practice the example dialogues provided in the sources, or better yet, create your own based on your own daily life and routines.
And that connects back to the irregular verb tip about asking for correction.
Exactly. Speaking is where you test your knowledge in real time, and it's the perfect opportunity to get feedback on your verb forms and tense usage. Don't be afraid to try, make mistakes, and learn from them.
Revisiting that often confused pair, the present continuous and present perfect continuous, seems helpful in this practice section too. Can you quickly recap the key difference again?
Yes, it's a really common point of difficulty, and the sources clarify it well. The rule is clear, and it comes down to when the action started. If an action started in the past and is still continuing in the present moment, you must use the present perfect continuous, often with a duration indicated by since, marking the start point, or for, marking the duration.
Example.
I've been working here since 2010. This means I started in 2010 and I'm still working here now. Or she has been studying for 3 hours. She started 3 hours ago and she is still studying now.
And you would not use the simple present continuous for those.
Correct. You would not say, I am working here since 2010. That's incorrect. The present continuous, I am working here, implies you are working only now, or perhaps temporarily. It doesn't convey that sense of starting in the past and continuing. Remembering this specific distinction, action started in the past and continues now, present perfect continuous avoids a very frequent error.
That's a really important clarification. So what does all of this practice advice mean for you, the listener?
It means that mastering English tenses and verbs isn't passive. It's a very active process. It requires conscious effort and consistent practice to move beyond just knowing the rules intellectually to actually using them correctly and automatically in real communication.
It's about building muscle memory.
Exactly. By consistently implementing these practice strategies, making an effort to think in English, reading aloud attentively, focusing on the context of the situation, doing targeted exercises, and crucially, speaking and getting feedback, you're not just studying grammar points from a book. You're actively building the skills needed for effective, real-world communication. You're taking the knowledge from this deep dive and transforming it into confident, accurate fluency over time.
Okay, so there we have it. We've taken quite a comprehensive deep dive today into the complex but fascinating world of English verb tenses. We started by really understanding the fundamental system, that grid of tense and aspects that gives us the 12 main forms, highlighting how each one adds a specific necessary layer of meaning about time and action.
Then we zeroed in on the absolutely crucial present continuous tense, exploring its core uses for actions happening right now and for definite future plans. We looked at how to form it correctly, avoiding common pitfalls, and we even touched on its fascinating cultural variations, like those examples in Indian English.
We also explored the various forms of the future tense, seeing how the simple future, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous allow us to talk about what's yet to come with much greater precision. And importantly, we dedicated time to shining a clear light on common errors learners make across different areas of English grammar, spelling, confusing words, those tricky prepositions, word order, and choosing the right verb or noun, providing specific examples for you to watch out for.
And finally, we armed ourselves, and hopefully you, with a wealth of creative and practical strategies drawn directly from the sources for tackling those unpredictable but essential irregular verbs. moving beyond simple memorization towards more engaging techniques like grouping, games, songs, and using context.
Ultimately, getting a good handle on these elements, understanding the system, mastering key tenses, avoiding common errors, and learning those irregulars is truly transformative for your English communication. It impacts your ability to express yourself clearly, accurately, and naturally.
It really does. It shapes your professional interactions, your personal relationships, and definitely your overall confidence in using the language. Hopefully, this deep dive has provided you with a solid foundation and a clear roadmap for continued practice and improvement.
And as you continue on your English journey, perhaps using some of the practice methods we've discussed today, maybe actively trying to think in English more, seeking out opportunities to read aloud, or perhaps trying out some of those irregular verb memory tricks, it's worth keeping in mind something we touched on briefly. How language is this living, evolving thing?
Yeah, that's a great point. We saw concrete examples of this in our discussion about Indian English, where usage patterns adapt based on the specific cultural context and linguistic community. English isn't static, it's dynamic.
So, thinking about how English is spoken and shaped by billions of people all around the globe in countless unique contexts, constantly changing and adapting over time.
Here's a final thought to leave you with. How might your personal voice, the way you choose to use these tenses, your own unique journey, mastering these rules, and perhaps navigating their variations in different contexts, contribute to that fascinating ongoing story of the English language itself?
Something to ponder as you continue your own deep dive into English mastery.